Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toku Portal podcast. Kamen Rider Bleach. I mean Saber.
Nice.
I am Vashivi, and joining me today is
Right?
And zero.
This show sucks. The lore is amazing.
At least I wasn't the one who started it this time.
I don't know
So-
about saying sucks because like these two episodes are really good. But
Okay, so
but as a whole, like yeah, the show is pretty questionable. But you're right, the lore is great. Go ahead, Vash.
so I know why this show sucks. Well, part of why it sucks. We just got a recap episode. And I
Yeah.
feel things that which covered everything that we've learned so far with a little bit of new stuff. I feel that has gone and done more to explain what the hell has happened the last 27 episodes than the last 27 episodes have.
Oh my god, fucking
it's-
everybody.
That's exactly what I was telling Zero before we started. Before you showed up, Vashi, that the show has been, whenever it tells you something, and it hasn't been telling you everything. And in the past 3 episodes, we've gotten 2 that were dedicated plot dumps to fill in the holes.
And
Right.
we shouldn't like I get having the plot dumps to explain like new things. That is fairly standard for but this is we've had zero explanation of anything beyond here are monsters. Here's they want a book. Oh, and possibly somebody in the Sword of Logos is an
Yeah.
that has been the 90% of the exposition we've gotten through the show until now.
I do agree. Where it's like
Um,
I feel like because of Toei's bullshit, where they're pulling like important stuff out of the show, like first you have to watch all the side stuff to get extra character, and then the other problem too is like there's so many fucking characters that it's like just if we give them all screen time, barely any time goes forward. So it's like, oh, if we actually take even more time to like talk about like everybody and everything that's going on, it would take even longer. So I'm like, yeah, this is kind of this problem of like there's too much going on in this fucking show for its own good. But I do agree where it's like, yeah, this like the base setup is explained so damn well in episode 28. Right? It's like
the last
it-
27.
right, exactly. It's almost like, oh fuck, they're like shit, starting next episode stuff's really gonna get kicked into high gear. So it's like we gotta catch everybody up to what the fuck's going on. So they're like, yeah, we were slowly planning to feed this information to the viewer, but like now
And then they
we've
just forgot to.
right, exactly, we just kind of hit a point where it's like, oh shit, now everybody needs to be on the same page. We don't have
But
time to do it.
But even then, they introduce a new concept that doesn't get fully explained.
And it's not new. It's why I started by calling it.
Oh, okay. You're talking about like how the sword or the flame swordsman's blade's gonna awaken everybody. Oh no, not that one.
Not
No. The mages who make all the important decisions.
Oh, the sage. Yeah, okay.
It's the fucking Central 46 arc from the first main arc for Bleach. When Aizen took over Central 46.
You know, that thing that everyone totally remembered
I
happened?
don't remember at all, but I
Exactly!
think I know.
That's Vashi's point.
Yeah, exactly. I know what you're talking about. Here's the thing though, right? Like the way they introduced it in the like recap episode is like, oh yes, this has been here the whole time. Like maybe in the writer's minds, but like we never knew. And then the worst part is like, oh, this is too important. So now it's like, okay, is Master of Logos the asshole, or is one of these people controlling Master of
No,
Logos?
see, that's what they wanted us to think, but no.
Yeah,
Master Logos is an asshole because they flat out told us Master Logos is an asshole. He
It's just
kidnapped Tassel.
The current master of Logos.
Yeah, the current one. He's an
Yeah.
asshole.
So they're potentially gonna become allies because there's like, oh, maybe we might have a way to like not destroy the whole organization if we go talk to those guys and get them on our side.
Kind of the same thing Bleach did,
Yeah,
where they
kind
went,
of.
"Oh wait, this one guy is an asshole," but it ended up being three other people, but still. And when they went, "Oh wait, no, that one guy's an asshole." Hey, new guy, can you come help us with this?
Yeah,
And
sort of.
that's basically what happened, and that's what's happening here.
Actually, why is your audio doing that, man?
I don't know what it's doing.
Yeah, it's kind of like normal and then it like fades out.
That's what I was talking about.
Like
It
may
might be because I'm shifting too far from my mic.
yeah, it might be okay because like I think I have some filters and compress. Let me see. Yeah, I have like a compressor filter on here, so maybe the YouTube end might sound a little bit okay. Like it's not terrible. It's just like I have like near the end it just cuts out a little bit. Like you can still hear it, but it's fine.
Oh.
It's fine. I think it'll be okay for the most part.
But like the other issue I have with this show and why I say this show, 2 points to make, is the fact that we have an entire storyline full of ton of characters, and I can care less about any of those stories. I'm more interested in what the hell Disaster has been doing. Thank you.
Ask
And
Twitter.
I actually don't care about
Yeah,
Disaster.
I'm true. I don't give a shit. But
in terms of what I care about in this show, I'm more interested in that than what's going on in the show, and that's a problem.
well, like I
I
like
should
the
be more
potential.
interested in the show and then just be questioning what's he off doing? It
Right.
shouldn't be in the forefront of my mind of, rather be seeing what he's doing.
I don't
I
know
think
about that, but I understand what you mean because like I'm like, oh, that like potential last moment at the end where it's like, oh, like Ren goes off and then like Disaster leaves. I'm like, all right, so like, are they gonna team up now? Because like they've got nobody else that's on their side.
But here's my problem with that. This is now the third time he's shown up since he's disappeared and basically said the exact same lines and then just fucked off.
Well, I mean, to be fair, now he knows that like Calibur's back, but it's like, oh, it's a different dude, so it's like, yeah, I know, it's weird. Like he's kind of doing the like Gremlin thing, except like Gremlin like suddenly advances his own plot in Wizard, where like he shows up, sees the thing, thinks of a thing, and moves his like small plot forward until he shows up. Whereas Disaster just shows up, sees something new happens, disappears, and then shows up again.
Right.
Which is annoying.
And then the other issue is what you touched on, the fact that the show has way too many characters.
I feel like
too many major characters.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like
they're trying to make them feel.
Yeah, I feel like the show has figured out a little bit like how to consolidate them now, because like it's kind of getting to the point where it's like, oh, everybody's starting to become on their like teams, and so it's like, oh, it's a little less scattershot, so it's like a little easier to follow now, especially episode 28. But then again, episode 28 is a recap, half of it.
But this show very much has the Q Ranger syndrome of too many characters, not enough time to properly flesh out the characters.
Yeah,
because they didn't instead of learning from where Q Ranger failed on that, they somehow made it worse. Because go through the list of characters and tell me what you know about them that isn't purely physical.
Right, that's true.
You're only going to have one or two things for each character. Like,
I mean, that's not bad because like Ryuki is basically like, for the most of the writers, you know, like one or two things about them. Well, that's not true. Right. I mean, you know, like a little bit, but like if you do it well in like one episode, you don't need to come back.
Right. It's like, but the difference there is they weren't. A lot of them weren't really integral to the plot. They were just happened to be people that were there. When it came to the full-on main characters, you knew a lot about them over the course of the show, especially by halfway through the show.
Kamen Rider Femme appeared in one movie, and I feel like I know more about her than half the characters in Saber.
I mean, to be fair, that's a movie character that doesn't like movie characters either get like you get no story or you get like a decent amount. But
we're 27 episodes deep here. How much time do these characters need before I feel I understand them?
Okay, that's fair.
Okay.
That's fair. I mean, here's my all right.
I can do this easily with one character.
Okay, go.
What do you know about Kamen Rider Buster? Not the writer, but the character.
Ogami, like he has a son. You mean besides that?
Exactly.
Yeah, he has a son.
That's my point. He's been here since episode 4, and that's basically all we know.
Yeah, my problem with like Buster, I mean not problem, like my thing with Buster is like he's a minor character. He's supposed to be a supporting character. He does his job well. Because he's supposed to be like the dad of the group who's like kind of like supporting all the side characters because he's gone through this. He knows what's going on. If like somebody's kind of going off the deep end, he kind of like steps in. So like he's a very minor character, so I'm fine with that.
But here's the problem I have with it is, yes, that's supposed to be his character.
Mm-hmm.
He's very much a major character.
Well, I mean,
the extent that he is around bypasses him being a minor character. Like,
no,
to me,
well, that doesn't count because like Kotaro from fucking like Blade is a minor character, even though he's like there all the fucking time.
Here's my
Kotaro wasn't a rider.
Right.
Yeah, but like, dude, throw a rock. Like, literally almost every single person who's ever shown up in Saber is a rider.
That's the problem. Problem.
I mean, to be fair, like, they can't really do too much because, like, it's halfway through the show, and two, it's like, fucking COVID hit early on, so these guys had, like, no time to have extra actors.
So, how many writers are we at right now? What, 11?
Are we? 6, 7?
The total is 13.
Jesus. Okay.
Because we have Logos and
Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's go. We got red, blue, green.
No. There's an easy way to do this. There are 11 swords.
Yeah.
One of those is movie. There's 11 swords total. One of those is movie exclusive, and as of episode 28, 2 of them are sealed away.
Well, I mean, there's a new one showing up next episode.
That means that there are 10 riders in the main series, 2 of which cannot transform.
Okay.
There might be 9. I mean, like, we haven't seen, like, if Master of Logos has a thing.
Oh, sorry. There's currently 9. We're getting the 10th one next week.
Okay, so here's you
guys keep talking. I'll try to count it out just in case.
To expand on my issue, Rye, how many Q Rangers were there?
Too many. More. There were
11.
12 by the end of it.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right.
By this point in the show, there were 12.
Because at this point, Tsurugi was introduced.
Okay, so why do I know more about the Q Rangers in that amount of time than I do about these?
Because they went places outside of 2 rooms.
Well, but that's my point. Is like even ignoring that is like you've got a show that had 13 freaking main characters that outside of 1 or 2 we knew more about than we know about the writers of this show, and I'm including the freaking two of the main ones.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I mean, I also feel like Sentai has this advantage where it's like they can be like, okay, we know a team dynamic, but like, you know, like the Red's the main dude, right? Or like the main 3, and then like everybody else is kind of side characters, whereas like Rider is like, no, this is a writer, we have to give them writer plot lines. Or it's like, oh, that's the first one, that's the secondary, that's the third. So like they all have basically the same amount of fucking screen time almost. And so it's like, no.
But we're 27 episodes in.
Okay. I will let you guys complain, but first of all, we haven't even done general thoughts, and 2, I actually like these 2 episodes.
These 2 episodes are fantastic
So
compared
yeah,
to what we've
let's
been
do
getting.
some positive
I will
stuff,
open that.
everything we can say, and then we'll go back to bashing Saber, because I'm like, we've been off for 2 weeks. I don't want to come back and be like, all right, here's another hour of bashing this show.
I just want to finish this
Yeah,
thought real
continue.
quick. Rintaro's been around since episode 2.
Okay, yeah, he's like my number one problem too.
So he is very much the secondary rider.
Is he though?
I know nothing about him other than the fact that apparently he's an orphan.
I mean, yeah,
that's it. He's an orphan, and he had a desire to avenge his
master.
Previous,
yeah,
the previous. Other than that, I don't know shit about him.
Oh, actually, I thought you were going to talk about Ren, but then you're like, oh, Rentaro. I'm like, oh shit.
No, Rentaro, Blades.
Yeah, I know.
He's been around since the end of episode 1, and all we know is he apparently doesn't have family outside of the Sword of Logos.
I mean, to be fair, like most secondary writers in like giant writer versus writer type shows barely have character unless they're like the rival type, which Rentaro is not the rival type. So therefore he doesn't get like that much story, because like the supporting secondaries don't get that much personality. I mean, they get a little bit, but again, you did the thing of like, oh, he's an orphan, therefore it's like, fuck it. He doesn't even get even the basic like, oh, I gotta deal with my family plot lines. They're most like friendly.
Zero. The issue here is that isn't so much that we barely know anything about riders that are not Saber, it's that we barely know anything about anyone that is not Saber.
Yeah,
and we barely know anything about Saber himself.
Yeah, that's true. We got more about his shit in this damn recap. Or these 2 episodes.
Like, putting aside that the secondary riders don't get as much character development as the main rider. What do we know about the villains?
Whatever the hell we learned in episode 28. Right? Like, that's pretty much it.
And apparently the 3 Megiddo are unnecessarily human and don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, like,
one of them died.
Yeah, I'll talk about that shit. That kind of annoyed me. I mean, not him dying, but like the way he died was kind of annoying.
Like the whole build up for that, it was annoying.
No, I feel like when he like fucking bites the dust at the end, like they like kill him, and then you see his smiling face. I'm like, fuck off, show, right? Like okay, either you go like, oh, we can't save everyone, or you know, like friendship conquers all shit, and it's like, oh, we actually turn him good. That would have been interesting.
Okay, so I'll give my thoughts on that when we get to it. So let's actually go through episode 27. Toma believes he can connect with the spirit of Primal Dragon? I already
Primitive Dragon.
Oh,
Primitive Dragon. So he goes into the training room that Rintaro used once to try and talk to him, but keeps getting rejected. Meanwhile, Legiel, one of the Megiddo, I finally learned his name.
I know. Such timely moment.
Is getting a power upgrade, but this will push him past the point of no return. He will be a monster now and have no shred of humanity left. He goes on a rampage looking to fight Saber. Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
I can't answer it because I know the question.
Okay.
Why does he hate Saber so much?
Well, he's supposed to be like Saber's rival, whereas like
why?
I don't know. That's just how the show's set up. It's because like he's the one who like brings out like the most monsters, and Saber tends to be like the one who kills most of the monsters. So he's just like, yeah, I get it. They're supposed to kind of have like a fucking dynamic where it's like, oh, I really hate this asshole. Like they should like, it should be like the Fies and Horse Orphanak level of like, fuck that guy in particular.
I legitimately can't remember what Saber did to piss him off so
Yeah, I
much.
think it's just he keeps getting in his way because like Legiel sends out the most monsters. So at this point, Legiel's just pissed off that like all his plans keep getting destroyed. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's like he doesn't seem to take it personally every time he loses. But like this whole arc hinges on him being like specifically pissed off at Saber.
So, and this is the weird thing with it is there is a point, and I want to say he was involved in with a monster involving the Sword of Light's actual rider form.
Okay, yeah.
Saber really had nothing to do with that,
Mm-hmm.
and Legilil still cursed Saber.
Yeah, it's kind of that like dynamic of like, oh well, we have like, oh, this villain fights this hero and we are not going to deviate at all, because that's sort of the same problem with like Blades and Zuos, where it's like Blades
That one
really
made
fucking hates
sense.
Zuos because like Zuos killed his master, and
I
Zuos is
remember
like, whatever,
that.
kid, get strong, come back and fight me.
That was a major moment for his character that only lasted 10 seconds.
Right. But we at least got the explanation for that.
Right, like that's what I'm saying. It's like the level that Zuos is sort of Blades' rival sort of makes sense. Where it's like, yeah, I kind of did a thing, and this kid wants to fight me now, but whatever, right?
Like
Whereas like Legiel is like constantly like, fuck off, Saber, come out and let's have a throwdown.
Okay,
Right?
I'm
Like it's basically supposed to be like the graphite snipe thing.
well, I'm
Where
disappointed because I was hoping there was an actual answer.
oh
like
no,
the graphite snipe
there's
thing.
no episode.
no,
Ah,
I firmly believe that they made an episode about it and then just forgot to air it. Like
Uh,
they accidentally edited an entire episode out of the series and forgot.
I mean, I don't know.
Because
Maybe
that's how it
like
feels.
he's been fighting the Sword of Logos for a long time. Like maybe he just fucking hates the Red Swordsman. Like one of the other previous.
the Red Swordsman hasn't existed for like 20 years.
Well, these guys are like hundreds of years old. What do you want from me, man?
But again, this is that part of like we shouldn't have to speculate.
Yeah, I know it's true. Um, where it's like, yeah, I can see the plot line. Like it should be basically like the heart thing, right? Where it's like he's pretty chill. Oh, that's not true. I guess like Zuos is chill, but like for the most part, he just sends out the most monsters and is chill. And like Saber just keeps killing monster after monster, and he's like, okay, man, stop killing my monsters, right? Like he should be the one who gives a shit, but like he never seems to care what happens to his monsters. So it's like, yeah, you're right. Like I can see how you write this storyline, but I agree. Like the Lagiel storyline is not well done at all.
It's like they forgot to tell us stuff.
Yeah, and then it got to the point of
Which-
like, oh, too many characters. We got to kill somebody off because by this point, one of the main villains should have dropped dead. And they're like, we did Caliber, but it's like, well, Caliber's a good guy now, basically,
like
right?
we got a better explanation for Thousand Island and his shift than we did for why Jalil hates Saber.
And
Uh,
he
d-
actually got episodes cut out of his arc.
Right. Like they straight up didn't show us stuff.
They straight up cut it for time.
So
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
that's
that
true.
we still got better on that. Stupid. Fuck was it stupid?
Right, but at
Right.
least you're right.
It
Like, at
was
least there was
something.
something. I don't know. You know what the worst part is? This is sort of like the whole like, oh, we just had like Zero. That's not true. We just had 0-1. But like before 0-1, we had Zero, where it's like, Shorts, what is your fucking deal, asshole? And then you get to the end, it's like, oh, that's your deal? Just random power? It's like, oh, that's kind of disappointing, right?
I liked that better than this.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, like, Legiel's thing isn't power. He just wants to be the best, sort of. So, like, you can't even give him
What,
that
is he a
arc because
Pokemon Master now?
I'm like, I feel like no, yeah, because I feel like Storius's thing is gonna end up being like kind kind of like that. So it's like, yeah, like the villains are like the worst part of the show. Let's not waste too much fucking time.
Yeah,
It was a
let's
shit
move
show.
on.
Let's just move on.
Let's move on to the good part. In the middle of the fight against Legiel, Saber recedes back into the book to try and talk to the spirit again, and so his body is left defenseless, and Rintaro comes in to protect him.
Yeah, that was great.
That was actually fantastic and unexpected.
Well, especially because it's not like, oh, nobody else is there. It's like, no, all the other guys are fighting too. It's just they were kind of on the wrong side, so they couldn't even make the assist there. So like somebody else had to step in, so it made sense.
And of course, Kento's just standing off to the side being an edgelord.
Yeah, dude, he's such an asshole. But I feel like he's so obsessed with like future vision that he's like, fuck it. If you die, it makes my life easier. I don't have to steal this stupid sword.
Right.
Which is sad, but it's like, yeah, that's the track he's on now.
But seeing Rentaro basically go against the programming that sort of Logos has been giving.
Yep.
Like
it was unexpected.
We may not know anything about him as a person, but his character arc is actually one of the things that's being really well done in this series. The conflicting emotion he feels of like what he thinks is right versus what he's told is right, and like how when he's working for sort of Logos, he's scared and confused and indecisive, but when he decides to help Saber, it is an immediate decision, and everything about what he's doing he knows is right, and he has no hesitation.
Agreed. That's super well done. Also, I mean, to be fair, this is written by Keiji Hasegawa and directed by Koichi Sakamoto. So again, the best writer on the show with the best director action-wise. So it's like, yeah, it's nice that we're getting story through a fight scene, which is a writer thing, but it's like, yeah, you just had to get like, a super good action director and a decent writer to get this done.
And like I said, like Rise.
Also, like they wrote 27 and 28.
The only bad thing about this entire arc for Rintaro is the fact that we know nothing about him as a character beyond
being manipulated.
Yeah, honestly,
beyond
like
him being manipulated.
At this point, I'm just so over Rentaro's shit. Like, I mean, like, I feel like, okay, I want him on our side because he's a good enough character, but, like, I don't care about his backstory. I'm like, whatever, man, just fucking flip over to our side. It's about time, which seems like what's gonna happen next episode. And, like, instead of wasting more time on Rentaro's bullshit backstory or, like, Ren moping anymore, I'm glad that they decided to fucking spend the time on May. Like on episode 20. I mean, to be fair, that was kind of the setup for the recap, but I'm like, at least the show's like, oh right, this is a good character, right? Like, we haven't fucked up her storyline yet. Let's just give her a moment. Actually, fucking everybody gets like a good moment in 28.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Except for Ren.
Oh god, yeah, you're right. Like, Ren is just a shit show. But I feel like at least now they sort of kind of know what they're fucking doing, because like they sealed his sword but he ran off and he's not gonna join anybody, so I'm like, okay, they have to fucking do something interesting. There's literally no other way for this character to be static anymore, right? Like, Kento betrayed him, his organization, he can't trust his friends, like the North or the South base, right? So like, where's he gonna go?
So what you're telling me he's gonna go find Orochimaru?
Well, I mean, he was fucking watching that fight.
If Orochimaru is disaster,
like, yeah, that's the only option. Right? Like, I'm like, okay, man, like, you cannot fuck this up. This is not hard. Right? Like, if you don't know what to write, just don't write the character for like 4 episodes, and then he just shows up with disaster as like his like Piccolo mentor thing. I don't know. All right, we'll figure it out. At least it'll be interesting. right? Or I mean, like if you want a rider analogy, I guess like fuck, who's the one in Gaim? The soldier
Was it
dude.
Pierre?
Yes, that guy.
Kamen Rider Bravo.
Bravo. Yeah,
Well,
like we can't kind of have like a Bravo thing going on.
as long as when Ren shows up, doesn't mention a puzzle piece, because he would be the character that would do it.
It's true. It's true. Um, but back to the good.
So
Yeah, I actually fucking really like I was thinking like, oh man, him taming his like super uncontrollable form so easily is such bullshit, but like I like the way he did it where it's like, oh, he continuously tries and he's basically being burnt alive. And he just has to keep going back in to keep trying and trying and trying and trying. And then it kind of feeds back to like, oh right, he's really good at fucking telling stories, which is like how he convinces like his monster form.
Which I will openly admit went a little over my head because I kind of.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a little cheesy, but I'm like, fuck it. If we're gonna do, like, the cheesy form of, like, oh, right, this is, like, a really sad backstory thing for my power-up, so I'm just gonna be friends with my power-up, I'm like, alright, why not?
Well, I like how he handles it, though.
Yeah.
So, the story of primitive dragons that, like, oh, dragons used to rule the lands, but then humans grew fearful of them and hunted them down, and so now this dragon is the only one left, and he's all alone.
Yeah, well, it's more like they coexisted, but a certain group of humans got fearful of the dragon.
Whatever.
But whatever. Yeah, it's like all the dragons are gone. Just the last one left. And it's like, oh man, those images are kind of really sad. Where it's like he's the last one, just waiting, and he turns to fucking bones.
And then the show reminds us that Toma is a novelist. Because he writes Primitive Dragon a new ending, a happier ending where, like, hey, even though the dragon couldn't find his old friends, he discovered that he has new friends in nature.
Yeah.
The sun's warmth, the winds blow, like all that stuff, basically.
Yeah.
The earth, the planet itself is his friend.
Like,
right.
This was a very, very well done version of Power of Friendship.
Yeah, it's true.
The point where once you remember that Toma's a novelist,
yeah,
this reminded me that he was.
It doesn't come across as the power of friendship.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I
just
also
the
like
power of good writing.
Yeah, I also like. Oh, we totally forget that Toma's the dragon dude. Right? He's the fucking dragon rider, and then he meets the other sad dragon rider, and then, like, by the end, his dragon keeps the other dragon company because he became friends with the dragon. I'm like, oh man. Like, nice tie in, but, like, even I fucking forget what, like, Toma's shit is half the time. But this was done so well. And also, considering, like, Sakamoto wrote this, and like Sakamoto worked, like, he's done a bunch of writer, but like he did a decent chunk of Forza. So I'm like, oh, okay, so this is just Wizard showing up in a Forza episode, but you decided to put it in Saber because it's like, oh right, I'm the final hope thing, except with the power of friendship, but done actually really well. So I'm like, I can kind of buy it.
Like, it does play really well. Like, it maps to the character.
I also like how, like, Toma doesn't figure it out right away because he has to go outside, see. It's like, what the fuck is this dragon going on about? Right? And then he just sees a kid, like, oh right, he's like a child that's been alone forever. Right? Like, what could he possibly need? Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Like, it was that need of perspective. Because there was only so much that a already written story was going to tell.
Right. I also like how he points out, it's like, this book is wrong.
Yeah, that was right. Like this passage in the book was just straight up wrong.
I fixed it, by the way. but like it's done in a well is like, and even just tying it into like of like fables and stories and stuff like that. They were all designed for people who heard them and used them, put them towards the practice within their own life and things that they would come across to put stories into perspective. So him having to leave the room of spirit and time to
Nice.
yeah, what else would you call it?
Yeah, okay,
The
fair.
fucking hyperbolic time chamber.
Yeah, I know basically what it is.
Um, but for him to have to leave and have that moment of clarity, seeing something similar in his life, for it to make that clicking connection, fits very well with the lore that the show is.
Agreed. I mean, if we're also speaking of character and lore bits, like the only other major person who gets some, well, I mean, there's a bunch of lore, but you can watch that yourself in episode 28. I mean, if there's anything else to say, I don't really have much to say. It's like, oh, nice, somebody summarize it. That's all I got. But the one interesting thing is like Kento's new development, where it's like he thinks he was brought back to life by his father to like right his wrongs, and like he now knows why his dad and previous Caliber went crazy. It's because they saw the end of the world and they tried to fix it their own way. Which is like his dad, I don't know what, tried to connect the world, and previous Caliber, I mean previous Saber, tried to get the Book of All Knowledge to use it to save the world. And like his version is like, okay, those didn't work, so I'm just gonna fucking seal the damn swords.
Well, with the previous Saber, he kind of worded it in a way that he would do that to figure out.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
he was trying to learn who the traitor in the organization was. He was trying to topple Sword of Logos.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which, if we tie that into the fact that he had visions too, would be a way for him to attack. Because if you take out the problem,
Right.
goes away. Then end of the world.
And in theory, the answer to that question would have been written in the Book of All Knowledge and Power.
Oh, that is a good point. I mean, like, yeah, it does recontextualize their stuff, but I mean, that's decent, I guess. But like, what do you think of like Kento's new turn? Like, where do you think that's going? Do you think it's okay for this character? Is it getting tiring that he's just so one note?
Kind of. Like, I have no emotional attachment or investment in this character. But at the same time, I didn't have any emotional attachment or investment in him during his emotional arc.
Damn. All right.
I
do love how he says his catchphrase at the end of episode 28, where it's like, "Oh, I'll do it with emotion" or whatever. Anyway, go ahead, Bash.
Like I'm the same way. It's like I didn't really care about his character by the point of, like, to the point where it's like it felt like they were trying to hit a heavier note than, they were trying to hit the Kiryu note,
Yeah.
but people actually liked Kiryu.
Kiryu, but yeah.
So this fell a little, it felt very flat. It's like, and the whole, oh well, he's obviously going to come.
Yeah, I
wasn't
mean,
entirely like it wasn't. I wasn't necessarily expecting back as Blubber,
yeah.
but it's not entirely shocking, and it nothing has changed for the show for it, really.
Yeah, I feel like here's the reason I feel like it hasn't changed anything. Is like I feel like all the Caliber shit is what the show's actually about.
Like,
Whereas like I feel like that's why like Kento coming back didn't change anything. Is because like, oh, now you actually get to see what the previous two Calibers were going on about. Where it's like, oh, it just recontextualizes, like this whole show is like the tragedy of being Caliber essentially. Right? So that's why him coming back changes nothing, because this whole show is about that.
I can sum up my exact reason why I could care less about, or with involving any of the deaths or anything.
Okay.
Take out the fact that he has been three different people.
Hmm.
So run off the assumption that it's been the same guy this entire time.
Yeah.
All it feels like he showed up with a plane, got his ass kicked, and went, well, that didn't work. Showed up with another plane, got his ass kicked, and went, oh, time for plan C. It's all it feels like.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like it feels like it's one plot line where it's like the whole point of the show is like the world is coming to an end and the Calibers can see it, and like them trying to prevent it. So like I feel like the Caliber plotline is the most plotted out plotline, so I feel like they're not pulling it out of their ass. Like the whole point that Kento had to die is because like they wanted him to be the third Caliber, right? Because
Which
they
was
want him to
like
be the Caliber who's gonna break the cycle. Whereas like I feel like that's the main plot line that the writers have plotted throughout the show. Is because
for
like
me, it
yeah,
just
go.
for me it makes it unnecessary for him to have been hands on.
I mean, it again like it kind of
He
feeds
like
into why he was Caliber number 3 is because like he has to carry his dad's like curse burden on his shoulders. So like he became Caliber, or I mean Espada, because
yeah, that's what I meant.
yeah, sorry, he became like Espada because he wanted to right his dad's wrong, and then he's like, oh, and then he died, and then he's like, oh well, my dad wasn't actually wrong because he saw this fucked up thing, but let me try to carry out his will. So like I feel like that's like the whole show is about that, but then they're like, well, you can't fucking make a writer show about that. Right?
Like it sounds like they wanted to make Kento like the main character and
Yeah,
realized,
basically,
crap, we
but then
can't
they had to
actually have
settle with Saber.
we can't
It's
have our hero be a villain for 90% of the show.
right, exactly. It's sort of the Ryuki thing where it's like Ken's, or not Ken, Ren's plot is basically the whole show of Ryuki is about his plot line, right? Pretty much. Like how that interacts with Kenzaki Shiro. But it's like you can't make Ren the hero because he would just go around murdering everyone. Right? So you have to put like another person who's like, hey, no, yeah, this might be a simple solution, but this is not the heroic solution.
Ren solution. Any problems if there's nobody around to make them.
I mean, to be fair, it wouldn't have worked because you see it doesn't work in the movie because he gets his ass kicked. Because like your solution works as long as you're the strongest. As soon as you start losing, you're fucked because you got nobody on your side. You're not gonna change anything, right? Um. Anyway.
Anyway,
So like character wise, like I feel like episode 28 is good. It gives everybody good character moments. It feels like the show is moving forward. The action was freaking great because again, Sakamoto, pretty good. The writing was actually fairly solid. I do like how like May even kind of has this like quiet moment where she's like a little sad. It's like, oh man, I know it's because of work, but like I feel like an ass asking you to do work at a time like this. But then they're all like, yeah, you know what? It's not bad. Like maybe use this as a distraction or whatever. So it's like that's such a good moment. I mean, like to be a build up of a recap episode that leads in so well. It gives like everybody small moments.
but I still have some stuff to talk about with episode 27.
Yeah, no problem. I was gonna lean back into it, but yes, right. I cut you off a little while ago. What were your thoughts?
With Legiel and his defeat. Because as he's getting his ass kicked by Saber's new form, he goes, how can a mere human be so strong? To which
Right.
Saber points out, Legiel, you were once a human. And he denies it, like, don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, he just
But
flips
then
out.
he hesitates as he starts to remember, like, wait, was I a human at one point? And he remembers how he and the other Megiddo first saw Wonderworld alongside Tassel and the original Master logos.
Yeah, and then it just cuts to Tassa. I'm like, man, you are like the most out of place character in this entire show. Like every single time Tassel shows up.
But yeah, he denies that he was ever once human, and tries to fight Saber. and loses. But in his defeat, he reverts back to his human form one last time and smiles in his death.
That is such a bullshit fucking ending.
Here's why I like it.
Alright.
So whatever happened to the Megiddo, they've forgotten that they were even once human. They think themselves superior beings. Whether they're being mind controlled or manipulated or what have you. The reason why I like that smile before he died is because in that moment, he was free. He was free from whatever fucking curse bound him to being a monster. And with his death, he could find peace.
See, I know that's the storyline they're going for, but for me, it's like, okay, I feel like these guys are just power corrupts everything, right? But then the problem then becomes is like, okay, what stops like the Saber or Master Logos to go down the same path? Because it's like, oh, you're gonna say friendship, but I'm like, they have friends. There's like 3 of them, right? They don't hate each other like the Greed. Like they don't particularly like each other too much, but it's like they're not like actively trying to murder the fuck out of each other, right?
See, like I had
And then, sorry, let me just give my one last moment, then you can go. And then like him getting that like, oh, smiling ending is like, okay, fucking Saber, you can't even like kill a person without like everybody being happy with what you do. Where it's like, for like the one person who should be able to be like, fuck off, I don't give a shit about your damn happy ending, right, is the villains. But it's like, oh, he doesn't even get it. But I do get what Rai's trying to say is like, yeah, that is what the storyline should have been. But like, I feel like that is not how they, like, the execution I'm not a fan of, but like, yeah, you're right, that is exactly what they were going for. I just don't feel like they pulled it off properly. But go ahead, Bashi.
initially when I was watching this, I had thought of the perfect excuse that didn't involve mind control for why they went nuts. But it fell apart when I remembered that a character existed. They were human, and they were not the ones who connected Wonderworld. They weren't there.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So the way it plays out in my head is they were trapped in Wonderworld.
Oh,
The only
maybe.
reason why they're back is because original Caliber did his crap.
Right, he opened the door.
Which connected. He opened the door. They came back through it. All psychopaths. But there's a problem with that theory because Tassel exists, and apparently he's been living in Wonderworld.
Right, right. Yeah, I know exactly what you're getting at. Like, it would have been interesting, or it's like they were just human. It's just been so long they forgot what it meant to be human because they were just surviving.
Right, like it would fit perfectly. It would make sense, and I feel it would justify that redemption, for lack of a better term, the redemption.
Oh yeah, it's true. I mean, I feel like the show, like that's my biggest problem with the show is like it's got like interesting ideas, and technically it should actually be a lot darker than it fucking is, because like the thing you're talking about is basically like, what if fucking Wonderworld was sort of like Helheim,
right?
Where it's like, oh, you kind of need that level of like, oh yeah, these guys used to be good guys and then they like got turned over time because they were just trying to survive. But it's like, yeah, again, which is why I don't like that smile ending, because it's like, oh, like Saber gets like 0 guilt, 0 like, oh, nobody can hate this character, where it's like, to make it so lighthearted, you have to remove like every single dark edge from every single thing. Well, whereas
unless you're gonna kill Kenzan.
Well, not even that, because not Kenzan, Kento. Kenzan is the green form.
Which the fuck ever. The only one that died.
Espada. Well, that's not true. He's back. Like the only one who's died is like original Caliber and past Saber.
I was referring to like me.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sorry. By this point, past either one of the last Caliber wasn't a main. I feel it was like because he was literally just a means to get Kento to.
I mean, he was more the main villain in the first arc than any of the villains.
Well, right. It's like, but his character literally only existed to get Kento to this point.
Yeah, which is the reason why I don't count his death as anything, because like his death was just to get him to become Caliber. Which is why I'm saying like this whole goddamn show is just the story of Caliber, like the different Calibers. Right? Because like nothing happens without like the Caliber plotline advancing. Which is not bad, but it's like, yeah, again, that's not like the show is trying to hide that fact, but it's like, yeah, if you really sit down and think about it, it's like this whole show is just about the Calibers.
Oh, given the overview,
Yeah.
I have come to realize another.
Okay.
I'm not trying to continue to slam the show, but it's and it's not so much that it's a problem. It's just a very distinct way they're doing it that just doesn't fit.
Okay.
Is we've had multiple instances of this particular type of setup
No, that's true.
throughout different writer shows. Problem I have is these writers are entirely 100% reactive.
Yeah, that is true.
There has been no being proactive in this show.
Well,
There has been none.
I mean, for a little while, Saber was, but like everybody in the show fucking hated him. Right?
Right.
They were like trying
Like-
to take his books away and all that shit, and like he had
Right,
to
but
break
it-
in,
and
but
wait-
then like immediately like, oh, Master Logo's like exactly what I wanted. Here we go.
At which point it went directly reactive to what is happening.
Yeah, I mean, like him pushing the primitive dragon thing is like, at least he's acting, but like he's the only character, right?
But again, that was only reacting to the fact it was. If it wasn't taking him over, none of that would have
Oh
happened.
yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, if it wasn't taking him over, that wouldn't even be a plot point. But yeah, I get what you mean. It's like that's a little 50-50. But like, yeah, besides Saber, like you're right, none of the other characters are proactive.
Except for
I mean,
Kento.
Yeah.
Kento and whatever the hell
Well,
Sabella
Kento
is
is
doing.
just the plot, though.
Right.
Like
but
he's not active. Yeah, he is active, but it's like he's literally just, oh, I act to advance the plot. I will literally stand here like a statue.
Well, I'm meaning in terms of like what he's doing.
Okay, yeah.
He there's something he's witnessed that he is attempting to avoid. So he is being proactive at trying to avoid that. He has a clear plan in place and he is acting upon it.
Yeah. You
Which
know what
now everybody else is reacting to that plan.
Yeah, I mean the saddest part is like Slash and Buster were more proactive when they were on the southern base
Yeah.
than they are
At
now.
least because they were trying to figure shit out.
Yeah, exactly. And then now they're just back to their old selves of like, oh yeah, we're just gonna hang around and see what Saber does. Man,
Like-
I still kind of felt bad about Slash's sword though. When he like picks it up and it's all sealed, I'm like, ah, you fucking assholes! You just got it back.
He just got it back and he's the one character who literally lived for that. That was an extension of his normal personality, extroverted self.
Yeah. I mean, I hope he figures something out where like maybe he gets like he figures out a way to unlock it and that like gives like all the other secondaries a power up or something. Where because like he is the inventor and his sword is like I hope this fucking leads to something. And not just like, oh, we got too many riders. We don't have enough stunt people for this shit. But anyway, Ryan, you've been quiet for a while. Thoughts on any of this?
Episode 28. I mean, we finally get context for what the Megiddo have been doing this whole time. So when we finally learned about the Book of All Knowledge and Power, we learned that its pages were scattered, and so I thought there was going to be some sort of like treasure hunt for them. Turns out the ride books are those pages, intentionally separated to keep that power out of any one person's hands. And the current Master
Yep.
Logos is trying to bring them all back together.
Yeah, I feel like we knew that before, but like,
I didn't.
yeah, I think it's like mentioned like once in the show, but
I think
like,
it's mentioned like episode 2,
yeah, it's a
and it's
really
just kind
long
of
time
glossed
ago.
over.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the Megiddo have been creating fake books to
See,
fill out
they
those
never
pages.
explained that shit.
Yeah, no, like this whole time I've had no idea what the main villains have been doing. Episode 28, I finally get it.
So I only knew, and it's not because the show told me. It was before this show aired. I read a synopsis for it, and it told me.
Like episode 26, I finally find out who the villains are. Episode 28, I finally find out what they're doing.
Yeah, the show is definitely like, oh, wait till like literally go to season 2, skip all of season 1 to find out to actually get the show started. It's like, oh my god.
Like it's literally like go watch this episode, then go back and watch the beginning of the.
No, you don't even
Honestly, I
have to
think
watch the beginning of the show. You can just fucking tell from this recap because the thing is like, oh, there was a previous Caliber and a previous Saber. Like, do they play into the current plot? Like, barely anything. Like, they're in this recap, and the only thing they add to is like, oh, Kento, right? His dad used to be a writer. He fucked up. Now he's trying to right his wrongs. That's all
Oh,
you
like,
need to know. Like, you don't have to watch the Caliber plotline. I mean, yeah, you might
I
not
meant
know who the fuck Disaster is, but like, who the fuck cares about Disaster?
well, like I meant in the aspect of like if you watch this and go back and watch from the start, having watched this, you'll have the context for half of what we didn't have context for.
Oh
right.
yeah,
Like
it's
I
fair
think
enough.
I think after this show ends, I need to rewatch it and see if that gives me a new appreciation for it.
I, yeah, I feel like this show probably plays a lot better in marathon mode because like you can just plot point to plot point will just flow through, especially because we know what the fuck is going on now. Um, Also, you would know that like none of this early fight shit matter at all, so you'd know how much to skip.
It's just we've had series do this before where watching part of the show we had no clue what was going on,
Oh, right, Blade.
like Blade, and then it wrapped that up and then started the show proper.
Yeah, I feel
Like
like
at that point, going back and rewatching it, like oh well, now everything that we witnessed makes sense because I now know everything else that happened.
yeah, I feel like the show is kind of doing the Feist thing of like, oh, you got to read between the lines, and like, oh, once you watch the show, you got to go back and see like, oh, this is what the fuck everybody was doing. But like the difference with that is like Feist has a lot of tension in all of its scenes. Where it's like, okay, you don't know exactly what the fuck is going on, but you can feel like something's going on.
I was invested in it.
Yeah, that's
Like-
true.
Like
I mean, to be fair, like,
I
Feist didn't have the problem of having like fucking 10 different writers, right?
no, it just had the problem nobody talking to each other.
Yeah, but like,
Like,
that's every single character in
that
Feist has
worked-
a secret.
But that
Like-
worked perfectly for the show.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I see that picture of Takumi and Kiba in the batting cage, and that just breaks my heart.
Oh my god, that is like the saddest fucking shit.
Like it, because initially when I started watching like Fives, I had an issue with it bouncing from characters to characters to figure out
Yeah.
who the fuck the main character was supposed.
Yeah, that's true. It's because like they're trying. Feist is kind of doing like this two cast thing, where it's like
Right,
you have
and
this set of 3 and this set of 3.
Like once I actually sat down and actually got into it, its show is fantastic. I love Fives, and it does that hold that we're gonna withhold information until just the right moment to drop it.
Yeah,
Like
they do take it
like
too
the
far
whole
at some points, but like
they
most
do
of it, it's good.
like the reveal about Takumi himself
But
when it
dude, that
comes
is
to the
like the
whole
best one.
reason he can transform.
Yeah, that is like the fucking greatest
And
thing.
then and then you get that, and they stop the information. Then they go a little bit, a little bit longer, and then they give you even more information on that, and it changes all of everything you knew from here to here. Fies was perfection with that. This, I feel they're trying to do the same thing and failing. They're trying to withhold, information until it's, key and important to what's going on, but they're not giving us enough of the lead to make it not be a giant what the hell, where did this come from?
Yeah, I feel like they're trying to do like with the calibers. They tried to do a shroud thing from Double, where it's like there's this character. Maybe they're good, maybe they're bad. Who the fuck knows? But they're definitely doing shit, and they're gonna be like super important to the plot, and then they're gonna get taken out or something, and like you're gonna have to deal with their fuck ups. But like Shroud is way more interesting than anybody else in this show.
Shroud was way more interesting well before we had any indication of who the hell Shroud actually was.
Oh, that is true. That is true.
Like back when she initially just seemed like a creepy stalker lady.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, also if we're gonna do like the whole like Master of Logo shit, I'm like Wise Man and oh fuck, the Dopant family, like mafia family dude.
Oh, like
yeah, like they're
would,
so much more interesting to watch as just like pure villains.
Like they want to try to. I feel like just using those two examples, they want to, like they kind of want to do both, but they haven't figured out the whole what made Wise Man work as a villain was the fact that he was playing two different roles and
Right.
legitimately playing both roles, whereas Master Logos is literally, I'm a douche, I'm a douche, I'm a douche.
Yeah, it's not even that he's just a cocky motherfucker like a cake boss, right?
He's just arrogant and feels that he should rule the world.
Right, and you don't even get the fun like you do with like I was gonna say Evolve, but not Evolve, Stark. Because like I feel like when Stark turns into Evolve, like all the fun kind of just like for the most part just goes away, and he just becomes annoying.
Yeah, until we found out he's making deliveries.
Oh man,
I don't care. That's canon.
No, that is canon. But they're oh fuck. I saw this like hilarious image. If I find it, I'll link it to you guys. But keep talking.
But it's like they wanted to do the Wise Man storyline, but have him be as open as Terra was. With that, he was evil. Because let's be real, Terra was very obvious. The fact that he was evil. 90% of the Sonozaki family was very open about the fact that they were evil. But like they wanted to do that, but still kind of have that Wise Man storyline of, oh, I'm gonna play both sides of the fence, get to manipulate everybody to get to what I want, and then it's just no, he's just being an ass. Like there's no depth to the character. Which, to be fair, it's been 2 episodes that we've seen. There's plenty of time to add depth. It's like, but they're already trying to undermine what they've already told us about it with the introduction of or sages or whatever the hell they are.
The 4 divine sages that decide the direction of the organization.
Which
one of them might be corrupt.
If that's the route they go, I'm gonna be very interested in the show. Because god damn it, stop trying to give bad people an out.
Right, exactly. Like this
not every bad guy needs to have that out of I'm not action.
Yeah, exactly. For especially for Master Logos, like who the fuck? I don't give a shit if he's a good guy. Like, what does he add if he's a good guy? Like, fuck him. Let him be a villain. I don't give a shit.
Like, who cares if he's just following orders? It
Right,
doesn't change
exactly.
what he's doing.
Like, I mean, everybody under him is following orders, and they're still fucking evil.
Like, while they didn't touch on a lot of it, like it's the we're gonna undermine it by going. It's the Thousand Island thing where they completely undermine the fact that he was a giant dick for like episodes, and then just kind of brush it off with, oh, he's got a bad childhood. Like they at least go out of their way to pay for his stuff, pretty much. Because I'm sorry, that man should be in prison by now, not just in the basement. But
Look,
we
we
don't
established rich people
constantly.
don't go to jail, even in
But I
Kamen
mean,
Rider
we don't.
world. Look, either
But
they
I mean, we
explode
don't.
or nothing happens.
Well, what I'm saying is like we don't need every fucking villain to be redeemable. It's the one thing Sentai gets right. Let the villains be villains.
Yeah, it's true.
If you're gonna write a villain, write a villain. Don't write a villain who had a bad childhood, so he turned out evil. It's not really his fault. Don't constantly write mind control villains or villains that are just following instructions because they don't know any better. The only one that worked with Creon, but that was because Creon was having. That's the only acceptable version of any of it that requires you to. I know, right?
Sorry, why I zoned out at the end there.
Um, it's the fact that like the controlled people, for lack of a better term, Creon would fall under the evil. The people that like if you're gonna write villains, write them evil for the sake of being evil. You don't have to give everybody that out. The only one that's acceptable is Creon
Right.
because that Creon was just having fun. Creon wasn't necessarily being evil. It was having fun. It was fun. So that's what Creon was doing. The only one that gets an out. Like you're gonna write a villain. And that's the problem with this show. None of the characters now feel like villains. They keep overriding with an out. Even Master Logos, who's clearly a dick, they're setting it up to have an out.
Alright. We should wrap this up now because it's we're hitting an hour and 10 minutes. So final thoughts on the current state of Saber.
Uh, yeah, I would. Man, I can't find that image anywhere, but if I do, I'll post it later. But final thoughts on Saber. I feel like it's on an uptick because these two were really good, and next episode is definitely change of status quo because again we didn't talk about that moment at the end of this.
I was gonna mention that in my roundup.
Yeah, okay. So I mean I'll let you have that. But I feel like this was really two solid episodes. I feel like it's kind of back on track now, especially with Kento showing up. Now it feels like okay, now the show is actually gonna go and do what it wants. It's like it finally has all of its pieces back. Is it a good show? No. Is it okay? Definitely. It's okay now. It's an okay show. Um, I can only hope that Rin gets something good because, like, that poor kid. He needs to he gets something at this point. Like, he's so much wasted potential. But go ahead. That's my final thoughts. Like, show's decent now. These two are really good. Hopefully, it continues.
So for me, ignoring episode 20, the show sucks. Like it has its moments where the show's okay, and there's some really awesome moments in it. But overall, it's very, very that having 28 and having the lore and which does change perspective on things. It does feel like it's gotten to that point of being okay because of that. Hopefully, it continues to get better with like you says, like everything back to where they want it to be. It just I feel it took them way too long to get this point. The point now where this feels like okay, we have the introduction to the show. Let's start the second. That's what this feels like. This should have been. So hopefully, the rest of the show continues uptick, given a the new form that's up that'll be upcoming here soon, and the introduction of Ella's brother. I don't know what or Ruginal or
Yeah,
whatever his name is.
Durandal.
It went by quick when I was watching. Seeing his introduction, like it, there are things that are going to be shifting on it, and so hopefully it sends the show in the proper direction. And also, we get a sword that turns, which explains why that image when we saw it, why I couldn't place.
Right. So yeah, when we found out about Kento's visions of the future and the world ending, we saw there were 11 swords, and now we're getting the 11th sword. The image was hard to look at, but once you found out that it turns into a trident, it suddenly fell into place.
Right, because the original image that we saw was just a. So I was trying. They're trying to find a trident in the image, and I'm like, no, this sword doesn't
And
exist.
even when you're looking at the image, it's so blurry from the CGI. I like had to stare at a specific image of Durandal holding the sword form to match up the fucking guard.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like uh, in the future vision, whatever, there's 11 swords, right? There's one in the movie, and then I think the 10th damn sword is showing up next episode.
Yeah. And that's technically the 11th sword because the movie takes place before this, I
Oh,
believe.
okay, yeah, fair enough.
So yeah, now we'll have seen all swords by that point. So yeah, Shinde Reika, her older brother, Shindai Ryoga, who is Master Logos's personal guard. I am looking forward to seeing what he brings to the table because I hope it's more interesting than Sabella.
I mean, it kind of puts Sabella in context because, like, he looks like such a fucking hard ass. Or it's like, oh, you can kind of see why, like, Sabella is kind of like that, like, all duty and loyalty and shit, because, like, her brother is even more crazy.
One of the only thing I like about Sabella. It has nothing to do with her character.
Okay.
It's the fact that when she transforms, it does the magical transform.
I actually like her fucking rider form. It's fucking great.
I do. I hate that sword though. But then again, I hate freaking the sword on the visor. It's neat and interesting. Like I like Sabella's look because I feel it's got more of like a, which is perfect.
Kind of, yeah.
Demon smoke. It's got that look to it, and I really enjoy that aesthetic. I just can care less about her. Like it seemed fine. Like her character seemed necessary when she was like when we got the instructions from Master Logos and she to fit her goal. But now it's I'm going to do exactly what Master Logos told me to do. So why do you exist now?
I mean, she's like the thing is she's the only one who knows where Sophia is. So I'm like, maybe she turns good. I don't fucking know. Well,
no, I don't want her to.
Yeah, I don't want her to, but this show has this bad habit of fucking like nobody gets to be a bad guy. Right.
And that's one of my problems with the show.
That's fucking like it's a writer versus writer show. You know how we were like, oh fuck, I'm so sick of writer versus writer, right? And then this happened,
I
and I'm like,
really
god damn it, I
sick of it.
fucking hate this show because it's like it took literally everything I said and turned it into a shittier version. Right? It's like, okay, we don't want writer versus writer. It's like, all right, you don't get writer versus writer. It's like, but they should be what? They should be fighting in this episode. I mean, this show, right? Like, they should be some not nice people. It's like, nah, everybody has an out. They're all not bad. And it's like, okay, well, I kind of want a Sentai style setup, and it's like, okay, well, here's literally shitty writer Sentai, right? Not Go Rider, not fucking Hibiki, you know, but like a shitty version of a Sentai setup in a writer show. Right?
By the time
Not
got to the end
Kabuto,
of it,
where it's got more members than Sentai. No. It's just
even
shittier.
even X8, by the time it got to like Via being back along, and to include the one character who's not an actual writer, I don't care what anybody says, not a writer. But
He's
even
not.
by that point, even by that point, is like once everybody was there, it felt like it felt more like a Sentai than this.
Yeah. Whereas, like, I feel like fucking. Okay, if we're gonna give COVID a chance, it's like, I feel like COVID really fucked up the production of this show. But I also feel like that's a convenient out.
It is a convenient out, but because it doesn't explain the shitty writing.
Well, that's the worst part. The writing's not shitty, it's just mediocre. Right?
Which
It's like the blandest
given,
fucking way of doing it. That's the biggest problem.
but given everything about this show, the writing should
Well, and then
this should be an amazing ass story.
sort of like the other problem then you also get is like, okay, the actors are okay, but like they're all really young and they're not like super good at like being one of those people who can save a script by just their performance. Like, you can kind of see it in moments where like Daishinji has his moments, and
The only person that I can fully say does that is
yeah, I feel like May
100% May saves any scene.
Yeah, well,
May-
Yuri's pretty good too. Right? Like,
Yeah,
Yuri,
'cause,
Yuri pretty much fucking showed up and saved the show, but like, I guess, yeah, it became the Toma, Yuri, and May show, but again, that's because you narrowed the show down to 3 characters. Right? But anyway, that we've said all this.
Yeah,
So any other thoughts?
you keep
I
from
got-
continue to bitching about Saber.
Yeah, like, I don't
Um,
want to fucking do it. Like, especially because this was solid. And so I'm like, all right, this
It's
show
the-
could be decent. But again, I'm not really watching a lot of like fucking anything at this point. Especially not other tokusatsu. But like, you guys are watching like really good Sentai because for some reason Sentai has become really solid in the last couple of years. So I'm like, I'm
There's no-
guessing you guys are getting way more annoyed at Rider than
Yes,
I am.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and just for example, we're 4 episodes into Zenkaiger, and it's an absurd ass show. 100% it's absurd as hell, and I can't argue. But we are more invested in that than anything going. Like, it's sad.
Yeah, I feel like the next Rider show has to be a small cast and it has to be character focused to fucking recover from what this show did.
I'm hoping that that writer learns from its Q Ranger mistake that Sentai learned.
Yeah. I mean, because the problem is like, this is sort of like the Zio thing. It's like, oh, we had a really small cast, we could have closed in, but then Zio had the problem of like, oh, we have like a gimmick every single fucking week. And that kind of like destroyed their character arcs until like Decade showed up, and then we kind of started getting some stuff.
As if that was the problem with Zio.
Well, no, not Decade showing up. I'm like, I feel like when Decade showed up,
No. I'm talking about the gimmick every week thing. Like, that's not why the show went to shit.
oh yeah, that's true. But I'm like, at least you can say that's one of the reasons where it's like, okay, who the fuck gives a shit about the storyline? when we can focus on, like, Zio had like a lot of shit going on, right? Whereas like Saber, like, okay, you know what the saddest part is? Isn't Saber like the anniversary show? Yeah, so it's like, okay, we get like the Zio anniversary show, which was not good, and then we get this one, which is also not good, and then compare that to the Sentai one, which is actually very good. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, Toei?
And the
Especially
Zenkaiger
coming
has,
after 01.
and Zenkaiger has no right being as good. Given the gimmick of the show and what it's doing, it not deserve. But there's aspects of that show that will make you question
I
the
mean,
entire.
eh,
To be fair, Pink when she gets her gun for the first time, almost.
sorry, actually, your like audio is doing weird shit. Like I can barely.
Sorry, when Pink gets her gun, she almost shoots herself in the face.
Holy shit.
It's that level of intelligence.
Uh,
The one human doesn't understand what an ice age is, despite the fact that the monster is currently freezing the planet. You can't use context clues.
I
It's
mean,
the dumbest team ever. That is just amazing.
okay, so like somehow even more dysfunctional than Akiba Ranger. How is that possible?
The
But-
only difference is they're not drunk fighting.
Dude, fuck you. Akiba Ranger drunk fighting is the best shit.
that's fair.
Dude,
That is
do you remember that episode where like he's so drunk and then he like
Oh, yeah,
keeps
that they were
getting
just
tricked by the
standing-
villain, like shot like 4 times in a row? Because
Yeah.
they're like, oh, this boosts their delusion power, and then he gets like fucking wrecked. And then the next day it's like never again.
They don't turn around and does it.
Anyway, yeah, Akiba Ranger is great. Hopefully they somehow show up in or have like an homage in this episode, in this Sentai thing.
I could say it, but
I mean, like
Um,
I'm okay with just like one of those like Legend Rider things, where it's like, oh, they're not gonna show up in the show, but here's their like gimmick.
I would be okay if literally it's just hit the red wall.
Dude, I'd be fine with the fucking Moimori Zakune at this point. Or the stupid car. I don't know if they have the car, but like just put it in the back.
But yes, yeah, that's all I have for this.
Yeah, I got nothing else. Anyway, thanks.
But before we drag this out any longer,
Yeah, well,
Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday for more Zenkaiger, and we'll see you in a month. Where we talk about I'm gonna talk about Saber.
well, I mean, to be fair, like
if the show
we're
gets
probably
better,
gonna forget a lot of what happened in the other episode, so it'll be a lot faster. Yeah, let's try to
What
keep
I-
it to an hour. Let's go with that.
Here's what I'm hoping will happen.
Okay.
That episode 29
Mm-hmm.
will be good enough that we'll want to do a podcast on it by itself, and then just continue from there. Go back to the one. That's what I'm hoping will happen.
Hmm.
Because yeah, us trying to keep a podcast under an hour is damn near impossible.
Well, I mean, it's possible, but again, like it
I
depends.
don't think it's happened yet.
Well, it almost happened.
When
here.
with all three of us.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like I was saying, we almost did it, but it's like an hour and 20 minutes. But that's because like we're talking about other shit in this. With like 4 episodes, we're not gonna have time to talk about anything else. But we'll see. Whatever. We'll see how the next episode goes. But I'm guessing we're probably gonna fucking do a 4-episode thing.
In that case, we'll probably just do like highlight points. Like, all right, here's the big plot event.
Exactly. I was like, there. You started doing beat by beat almost. I'm like, what are you doing, man? It's like we can't do this for 4 episodes.
I just wanted to rush through it.
Yeah, that's fair. My fault. I thought we were just gonna talk about like the stuff we liked, and so I'm like, all right, here's what I like, and it's like it's 28, and it's like, oh no, I want to talk about 27. I'm like, oh shit.
I did want to talk about that point though, because you brought it up before.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, next time let's just talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, because there's no way in hell first we're gonna remember 4 episodes, or in 2 or properly. And 2, it's like it's a fucking 2-parter. Like, of course, we're just gonna talk about like how the 2-parters resolve.
I will accept that considering the fact that I can watch an episode yesterday. Wrong.
Yeah,
Done it.
dude, man, I literally watched it like 10 minutes before we went on air, and I fucking forget some of the shit that happened. But
Yes.
anyway, thanks everyone for joining us. Yes, catch these guys next Tuesday for new Sentai. Apparently, it's super good, and probably see you in a month for next Rider. Hopefully, Saber gets better. All right, peace out, everyone.
So, thanks for listening. Saber did suck. Hopefully, it gets better.